But first, I want to introduce Temi Coker. Temi and I got to know each other last year, had some really good conversations and about the work that he's doing, experiences he's had, and it really seemed to resonate with conversations that we've been having. And I thought it would be really wonderful to introduce him to y'all and give him a chance to share his thoughts and experiences with you. Temi is an artist and photographer in Dallas. He's been an Adobe creative resident and works with large recognized national brands to help them tell their stories. And he uses his gifts in a number of ways to do that. Today, we want to talk some about this issue of creativity and really in the context of what's happening with your students, what the value of their experience with you in their classrooms really is and can be, and to help reveal to them this capacity that they have to create on a screen, on a page, with words, with images, but also in their lives, and to create change and to see opportunities and things that don't yet exist and how they can help create them. So I think what you all have as teachers is a real gift to your students, even beyond your discipline. And that's what we would like to talk about today. So Temi, thanks for being with us today. Why don't we start, if you could maybe just tell our folks a little bit about your story, your upbringing in Nigeria, coming to the United States, and what your experience in Dallas has been. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'll probably talk more about it on the slide, but my name is Temi Coker. I'm a photographer and graphic designer. I merged those two mediums together to create artwork to help companies tell their stories and to just captivate people's attention and emotions and things like that. I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. I came to America 2004, and I have been here ever since. I went to college at the University of Houston to study digital media, which had photography, graphic design, and videography and things like that. And I graduated 2014, and joined the Adobe Creative Residency in 2018, and I've been working for myself ever since.
Fantastic. How would you, first of all, I don't think I knew that you had gone to University of Houston. I have one daughter who just graduated last May from U of H, and a second daughter that's enrolled there now. So
awesome.
Go Cougars.
Yeah, go Cougars.
Talk a little bit about how you came to discover your creative potential. It probably didn't start in college, but talk a little bit about how that emerging awareness came for you.
Yeah, so I think it's always kind of been a thing for me. When I was younger, I would always try to find ways of expressing myself, whether it was through finding toys or finding different ways to just have fun, playing soccer with bottle caps, and each bottle cap is a team. So you have Coca-Cola versus Fanta, or, even playing with car tires that weren't used and like racing them down a hill, just stuff like that, of just wanting to be free and expressing myself. And that was kind of what started all of this. And I remember when I was around 10, I had a piano teacher that taught me how to play the keys. And that was a really, really interesting way for me to express myself, because I could play how I felt. And it just kept evolving. And, I wanted to study music in college, but my parents were not too happy about that. So I did biomedical engineering for a year, and then I switched because I realized that wasn't for me. But yeah, and I'll probably talk more about it on my, I have a keynote here that I'll share later, but yeah.
Great. And I like that idea of play being at the heart of it, that just kind of seeing things, experimenting, playing, having fun, has really got to be at the center of your creative work. How did, now you have taught in public schools, is that right?
Yes, I was a high school teacher for 3 years.
And talk about that. What was, talk about your decision to teach and to share this with students.
It was fun. You know, I wanted to go back to um, my old high school to teach because I wanted the younger generation and kids, especially those that look like me, to know that they can have a career in the creative field. And but I also wanted to bring an element of fun, but also allow them to get real world experience. And so we had different times where we'll talk about contracts, talk about deliverables, um, talk about how to price yourself. And because I think a lot of people price, uh, they make their prices based off of like how long it took them to actually do the work. But in reality, you're charging because of how long it took you to get to this point, on top of the time that you're spending on it. So I think a lot of people forget that. Um, so yeah, like, you know, if a client uh, gives me a job to do and I finish it in 5 minutes, um, if I charge 3,000 for it, it took me 8 years to be able to do this in 5 minutes. You know, so that's how I view those type of things, and that was what I was trying to instill in my students. But it was a lot of fun. You know, um, I think as a teacher, I think it's important to allow the kids to um, express themselves. So teach them the tools, but give them the freedom to express how they feel, express what is important to them. Because I think a lot of times teachers can kind of get in the way of their kids' growth because they feel that their students need to do things a certain way. And honestly, there's really no right or wrong way to do things. It's just all perspective.
Well, and that seems like a kind of a balance, right? Between you've got to have enough structure that the students know what's going on and what you're asking of them, but also space. Um, how do you navigate? How do you think? How do you make the decision? Here's what I need to introduce to give this some shape, um, but not so much that you're crowding out their what they have to bring.
Yeah, I think I mean, I think it's important to have those conversations with your students, figure out what they love, figure out what they like, figure out their goals, and try to help make that happen for them. You know, I think kids respect teachers that listen and teachers that don't feel like they know everything. I think as a teacher, you still need to, in some way, be a student. Learn your students, learn your kids, learn the craft, learn um, how to, you know, navigate the classroom in a way that has a family oriented feel versus competition, because there's already enough of that outside of the classroom. So it's like, why can't we just come in the classroom and be a family, celebrate our wins together, celebrate our losses together, and grow?
That makes it, yeah, I like that. It's also more of a conversation instead of just a unilateral thing. I
Yeah,
find, yeah, I know our members talk about how, what they're doing isn't just conveying information, although that's part of it, um, but it's the back and forth where the real learning occurs and what the experience is really about.
definitely.
Now you have some pieces you wanted to show us.
Yeah, I'll share my screen right now, and I'll go through it. I think we've already talked about some of them. So um, let me see here. Just gotta try to hide. Okay. Um, sorry, I'm trying to see if I can hide. Okay. All right. So cultivating creativity in ourselves and in our students is what I was going to talk about today. And I think the most important thing is making sure that we are thinking of how important it is for us to cultivate creativity within ourselves before we can even cultivate it in our students. And so one of the most important things is, you have to find your why. Why do you do what you do? Why are you in this field? Are you in there for money? Are you in here to inspire? Are you in here in this creative field to help the younger generation? And so for me, here are my whys. And I think your whys need to be the foundation of your creative journey, because you're going to find yourself coming back to this often. So for me, my whys are to inspire, to heal, to be a representation of people that look like me in the art creative field, and also to spark conversations about the injustice happening within the minority communities, spark conversations about what is happening within our communities and things like that. So my upbringing, I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. I was born in 1992. I'm going to be 29 this year. Of course, I started, I talked about music. I was getting into music. I was trying to become a producer. I wanted to, go on tour with Chris Brown and Rihanna and Jay-Z and just play keys at their concerts. But that clearly didn't happen. However, when we moved to America, things were a little different. It was almost like a culture shock. And I say that because I come from a Yoruba culture, and in our culture, it's very vibrant, it's very colorful. This is where I get a lot of my inspiration and colors in my work. And the thing is that in the Nigerian culture, really, they have almost like four pillars or four things that you could be once you're born. So it was either doctor, lawyer, nurse, an engineer, sometimes accountant. And so when I came to America, when it was time for me to pick a major, I wanted to pick music. Music is clearly not here. And so my parents were not happy about that. So they told me I couldn't be successful in music. I didn't have to go to school. They were like, we didn't come to America for you to go to school to go study music. So I picked biomedical engineering, and that was I did that for a year. I hated it. There was a science class in there that I was not doing well at. So I switched to digital media, and digital media was kind of like this big bubble of different creative outlets. So there was photography, graphic design, animation, web design, printing, anything you can name that was in the visual arts. And so I got pulled into the photography, and I started taking pictures of things. These are still in my Facebook album. These are the first pictures I ever took with my camera in 2011, December. And I just took pictures of everything. I had $365 in the bank, and my camera was 360. But I was broke, but I was the happiest kid ever. And as I kept taking pictures, I realized I love taking pictures of people. So I ended up making a website, and people kept asking me to take the graduation pictures or take creative photos of them. So my work started to evolve. I started to grow. I started to express myself. And as I kept going on this photography journey, I started to figure out what I liked. So I was in this phase of double exposures. Then I was in this phase of going back to Nigeria to document how beautiful Nigeria was, because in high school, people always asked me if I lived in huts and things like that. And so this trip was very special because it was my grandma's 70th birthday. I went to surprise her. Then I went to go take pictures of where I used to go through when I was younger, and eventually turned it into a book. It was just a passion project, but people kept following the story on Instagram and wanted me to turn it into a book. So I did. And this was the first time that I did an exhibition. And all the proceeds went to a friend of mine. She started an organization called the Reverend A. Facunda Sunflower of Destiny Foundation, which helped families who had kids who had cancer. Unfortunately, my friend died before the exhibition. She was supposed to come, but she had sarcoma. And so she passed away. And so I dedicated the whole exhibition to her. And so all the proceeds went to her foundation. And this was the first time where I realized that creativity, um, cultivating creativity within myself and in others allowed me to be able to give back, which is really important, I feel, in the creative field, which is why I went to go teach. Um, and so I kept taking pictures and I kept growing and I was becoming like very editorial focused. But then I started trying to add some graphic elements. So I started adding color. And as I was doing this, I was like, what can I do to continue to cultivate this creativity and keep growing and keep pushing myself? And so what I realized is that you have to make creativity a lifestyle. Now, I know some of you guys might feel like, oh, I'm not creative. I'm a science teacher. I'm not creative. I'm a math teacher. Um, I beg to differ. I think all of us are creative because creativity is all about self-expression. You know, I think even the way that we dress, what we wear, how we talk, what we do, how we learn, how we teach, there's creativity in all of that. And so I found this quote online that really feels like it summarizes everything that I wanted to say today. Is like, I believe that all human beings are creative and that creative thinking is a central part of self-expression. Self-expression is a gift we give ourselves and the world. Creativity, therefore, is at the heart of fully being engaged in life and work. Um, and so now it's like, okay, I want to make this a lifestyle. How can I do it? One of the things that I started to do was I started this series called a poster day. So for a whole year, I made a poster every single day. And this was so that I could get better in graphic design like I was in photography. And so there was this pull to figuring out how to merge these two mediums together. And a lot of people told me I couldn't do it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to actually try. So I started this. And as you can see, here are some of my first posters that I made. But as I started growing and learning, the type of work that I made for my posters evolved. I was able to find my style. I was able to find a different way to um, express myself, express my thoughts, express my culture in the vibrancy of the color that you see, and things like that. And so here are just some examples of different artworks that I've done. A lot of these are for fun, which is another thing. I think like a part of cultivating creativity is to always feed those passion projects that you've had, that you've always wanted to do. Um, and so I just kept creating things for fun, kept growing, kept learning, finding different styles, different techniques to express what I wanted to express. Um, and yeah, so here are some other ones. Just another one. And so as I was doing all of this, I realized that creativity inspires. Um, all of the things that I have shown you previously um, inspired a lot of people. So because of what I did, I was able to, teach a Skillshare class on how to make something like this. And then I got to do some things with Adobe, doing a live stream for 3 days on how to make different types of posters. And then at Adobe Max last year, I was able to do some tutorial on how to make like a photo booth background type of thing. And so these were just different ways that I realized that creativity, once cultivated, can inspire. And so if you're a teacher here, I have a soft heart, place in my heart for teachers, because I feel that as teachers, we have the capabilities and the opportunity every single day to cultivate creativity in our kids. Now here I was like 22, and I'm glad that the school district decided to give me an opportunity to teach high school kids. you know and so I got to teach them just creativity, graphic design, photography, how to start your own business. And I taught for 3 years, and each time I was always able to find new kids, talk with them, get to know them, get to know what they want to be, what they are inspired by. And then we were able to, every Friday, I was doing my poster day series during this time when I was teaching. So every Friday, we called it Fun Day Friday. And what we did was I showed them how to make a poster, which was really for myself, so I can add it to my poster day project. But when I showed them how to make it, they were excited and happy, and they took those tools and made their own thing. And so we were able to kind of have this kind of like fun day, but still cultivating that creativity. They were learning new skills, they were learning new things and growing. And so I was able to also go back a few years ago just to talk to younger kids about what I've done, creativity and things like that. And so here's some of the things my students had did in the past. They loved it. They learned new things, even with photography as well. And this was when I realized, like, man, creativity can really inspire people and help them find their voice and their passion and even their purpose. And once they found their purpose, a lot of the time, I feel like as artists, we have a voice and we're able to tell stories. I feel like colors really do tell a story. And so I think it's really important to always remember that you're telling a story, you have a voice. What are you trying to say with your work? And so, last year, the Breonna Taylor incident, the George Floyd, the Toyin Salau incident was pretty tragic. I mean, it was crazy that it happened and how things happened, but I use my art to speak up about it, the injustice happening in America against Black and brown kids and the police brutality and things like that. And it gave me, I already had a platform to speak freely, and that's what I did. Because at the end of the day, these people are humans and they deserve to have been treated as such. And so that is dear to my heart, dear to what I do and why I do what I do. And so again, I got the opportunity to work with HarperCollins to make the book cover for a book called Punch in the Air, which is about a young kid who committed a crime, and it was just his experience in incarceration as a young kid, young Black kid. And this was written by Ibi Zaboy and Yusuf Salam of the Exonerated Five. And if you know that story, you know how tragic it was for them to go through what they went through. And then I was able to, make a shirt with a company called Merch Aid. And this was to help donate proceeds to the Ella Baker Foundation and other foundations that were fighting injustice in America. And so it definitely is part of what I do. And so I'm gonna show a video here, but I'm gonna stop sharing because I want to make sure, okay, no, I'm not gonna stop sharing. I wanted to make sure I could share the sound. So this was a campaign I did with Adobe and some of my other friends, and they gave us a prompt like, what do you see when you see Black? And so I'll let the video speak for itself.
When I see Black.
When I see Black.
When I see Black.
When I see Black.
When I see Black, I see
beautiful canvas. I see that my skin, my color, is a miracle.
I see that Black stories create community.
I see my mother, sister, and friends.
I see that Black girls can fly.
I see our very being is enough to inspire.
I see our legacy in neon lights.
I see the future is so bright.
I see that nothing moves without Black culture.
I see the source of life.
When I see Black, I see myself.
So whenever I get projects that align with my values, with the voice and the message that I'm trying to get across, I'm always happy about that. And so here are some other just passionate projects that I've done. The one on the left was actually for Twitter. It was the Twitter header for Juneteenth, which is a special moment for us, especially in Texas. And so those passion projects opened up an opportunity to be able to work with Peloton for the Black History Month collection. And so I teamed up with them to make pretty much like sportswear apparel. And as you can see, even with the inspiration behind it, was all about legacy, power to the people, and things like that, which is something that I embody in my work as well. And then I also got to work with AT&T for the Dreaming Black campaign, which is actually still going on right now. And this campaign was to honor, Black people who are making a difference in their communities. And again, giving them a platform and a space to use your voice. And so here are some of the Black honorees. Thankfully, I was actually inducted to be one of the Black Future Makers for 2021 as well. But here you have, LeBron James, her, Charlemagne the God, and even some essential workers, firefighter, Marine, a dancer, and other Black activists who use their platform and their voices for the greater good. And so I'm just going to show the actual video here for you to watch.
How do we revere the doers and the dreamers? Thank the makers, creators, and shapers of not just today, but tomorrow. Lift up leaders, guardians, legends. How do we honor champions of voices who need to be heard? How do we hail the brave, the bold, and the heroic? We celebrate their power, their passion, and their dreams by joining them. Because when we dream in Black, we dream as one.
So again, very thankful for the opportunity to be able to do that. I worked on the background. I worked with the animators to kind of create that whole campaign, which is pretty much a big deal because I was given the immense opportunity to be the lead designer and the art director for this whole campaign, which was a lot of work, but you can see that my voice does not change, especially with how I want my messages to come across. The storytelling does not change. The community aspect does not change. And so these are things I brought into this project as well. So here's some extras. I think teachers, especially for those in the creative field who are teachers, always remind your students to create the type of work they want to be hired for. I think a lot of the times kids are like, I'm so talented, I'm going to wait for a company to come to me. And it doesn't work like that. A lot of the works that I've done as passion projects landed me the jobs that I've done today. The AT&T thing that I did, they referenced work that I did back in 2017. And we're like, hey, we want you to kind of embody this for this campaign. And so here's something I did that landed me a nice gig last year. So I made some shoe posters because I was trying to get these shoes and I wasn't able to get them on time. So I was sad. So I went to Google, I found an image and I made a poster from it. And as things progressed, I was reached out to by Foot Locker to be the lead designer for their campaign called For the Love. And so essentially this campaign was, of course, for the love of basketball. But because of COVID, the event had to be streamed. So what we did was we did projection mapping. So I made designs that projected on the basketball court, and people would go on Twitch and they could interact with the things on the basketball court. It was pretty amazing because it was a 3-day event. You have people, you have a dunk contest, 2 guys dunking, and then the audiences vote on Twitch. So on the first day of the launch, we had over a million views and so much participation. And so it was a 3-day event. And yeah, probably going to skip this video because I don't know if I think we're running out of time. You can let me know, Richard.
We're doing okay.
Okay, if we're doing okay. I'll play the video so you guys can kind of see. I worked with a company called VT Pro Design. They're one of the best projection mapping companies in the entire world. And so it was an amazing opportunity to work with them. And this is a behind the scenes video that they did. All right, so I'm just gonna show you guys some pictures here. So these were the designs for all 3 days, and each day they picked out elements from these designs to project on the basketball court. And of course, it was Kobe Day for the last one, so it was just amazing. And here are some of the people that were participating on some of the events as well. And so I got to make this for them. I forgot to add the animation on here, but it's all good. And just here are some pictures. You know, if the people used plus P2 in the chat, they can send a chair to the players right then and there, and it will be projected on the basketball court. So it was really like this, just crazy. It's just crazy how the idea still came together even with COVID. We weren't there, but we were able to actually almost feel like we were there because we were watching it through Twitch. And here's another one. People could type different numbers and it would actually make a poster for them, and they can type whatever they wanted to type, and it will be shown on Twitter. And so it's this way to kind of engage the whole community as well. Also, you know, I was able to work with a headphone company called Mastering Dynamics to make my own headphones. And these are patterns that I use in my work all the time. And again, they just reached out. And this is something, the first time I used this pattern was like in 2017. And this is 2021, and it's still being used. And because of that, I was able to get this opportunity to work with them to make my own headphones. And so, yeah, I think at the end of the day, you know, teachers, your perspective matters, but so do the perspectives of your students. And so it's important to hear them out, listen to them, give them just an opportunity to express themselves. Teach them the tools, but don't put them in a box. And yeah, and so that's pretty much it for today. Thank y'all so much. I think we'll open it now to questions. Here are my information, my Instagram, and my website. My website is still being done right now. So once it's finished, it will be live, and I sell my prints as well, so that will be coming soon. So thank you.
Temi, this is remarkable. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. I'm thinking about conversations I'm having with members about how challenging it is to teach online, especially when that's the only way we're teaching. It's harder to engage students. Everything just feels a little more remote. And I think this is really helpful just to begin to think about what this looks like from the student's point of view, and connecting their passion to whatever it is that you're teaching. Right. I thought also about the Twitch platform that you're using. That may or may not be something our members are familiar with, but I bet their students are.
Oh, and yeah.
It can be, I think it can be really powerful for students if you let them drive some of this and say, I don't need to be the expert in everything. You get to be the expert on some things, and we'll learn together. But it's just being open to all of it and seeing what you can create with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is fantastic, and I hope you keep in touch with some of your students. And
oh yeah, I've hired a few of them to be my interns, and that's been awesome. And I think one of them now, she's gonna be a senior this fall, which is crazy.
Time flies.
Time flies. She's gonna be a senior in college. Crazy.
Wow. Well, this is wonderful. Now, I think one of the things our members may be thinking about right now is, this is all great, but how do I do this in my class? Either, whether, the question may be, how do I get the tools to do it? How do I learn to use those tools? Todd Taylor is with us also. He is one of the people at Adobe that we work very closely with. Most of our colleges around the state purchase their Adobe software through our statewide agreement, and we've been really privileged to be able to bring Adobe and price it in a way that it's within reach of our colleges and even our students. And that is just opening up all kinds of opportunities for our members. So what we'd like to do is make sure that now that you've been inspired by what Temi's shared with us, you also can see how to begin taking the next step. So Todd, why don't you talk with the group a little bit about what you're seeing and some things that you want to make sure our folks know.
I'd be happy to do that. Temi, I don't know if you've actually gone away, but I'd like to talk just a little bit, if you're able to come back on screen, unmute your mic, about taking your perspective and thinking about it in terms of the art of teaching. You encouraged us also wisely to listen to our students and to give them options in the space to be creative in any potential class. How can, an instructor who maybe doesn't have the kind of opportunities you've had to express themselves or to be a visual artist, think about their classroom and their teaching as a creative space? What suggestions and recommendations do you have for helping them all think of creativity as a lifestyle and a professional lifestyle, potentially for all teachers? Yeah, unmute your mic. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it's, I can't stress enough the part of like listening to your students, because a lot of times the answers are right there in front of you. And I think sometimes us as teachers, we can just be in our own bubble so much that we don't listen to what the students are saying. But I think cultivating creativity, some of the ways could be, asking the kids who are their favorite artists, and maybe even seeing if the artist can come and speak, or, connecting the kids with some of their favorite artists for a one-on-one opportunity, like, hey, let's work on this project. Let's, once you guys submit it, let's vote. Whoever wins will get a one-on-one time with this creator or this creative. And, I know for me, whenever I had people come to speak in the classroom, a lot of the times my kids, like, they just woke up, because they saw a great opportunity. And, the crazy thing is, when I was teaching, I applied for the Adobe Creative Residency, but when I went for the interview, they were already working on Photoshop on the iPad. And so they were like, hey, we would love to give five of your kids a free iPad for them to beta test the Photoshop on the iPad and be one of the first 30 people in the world with it. And when I brought that into the classroom, kids just woke up to like, oh my gosh, I want to be picked. but it was too late because I was already looking at the kids that have been paying attention, the kids that have shown immense growth. And I pulled them aside and I was like, hey, here's what's going to happen. And, some of the other kids got jealous, but it's just like, I talked to the kids, I listened to them. We did things that would help them grow. Some kids did not care about it, which was fine. But the ones that did are the ones that I now see are like doing their own thing and growing. And so I think listening to the students, figuring out creative ways to potentially connect your students with some of their favorite artists. And, I don't want to say like the reward system, but that never fails. Kids love to be rewarded. So if it even means like an Adobe subscription or something, those are things that I think would be amazing.
And I think what you're talking about is creativity as a lifestyle, as a way of seeing the world, is so important. Maybe even especially in the sciences. Now, I know you thought about being a science major at one point and that didn't connect with you, but I think back to my high school career, and the one assignment I remember more than anything was a competition. It was a challenge in a physics class to build a bridge using nothing but plastic straws and straight needles. Oh. And because of that lesson, I will never forget about the difference between tension and compression in the building a bridge, right? And I think it's that creativity that I'm making something that wasn't there before that deeply teaches me the learning outcome of that class. And so I think that is something that what that teacher did has inspired me throughout my teaching career to think creatively about having students involved in the making, right, and creating to really inspire their learning in any potential discipline.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Something else that I work somewhat with media, and something that strikes me about the art that you shared with us today is something that you said that was really important, I think also for educators to think about, which is not just beginning with the why, but thinking about representation, about who we see and who was represented in the lessons we're leading. And I know it's been a struggle and a concern of mine it's so hard to find diverse representations in stock footage these days, whenever I'm trying to compose something. And that's something that that certainly is a message and a theme in your work. I was curious about, I guess someone else got to probably photograph LeBron James, but where do your models come from? Sometimes it's autobiographical, but who are you taking pictures of, and what are you thinking in terms of representation, in terms of people who are leaders, such as teachers, putting representation in front of students?
Yeah, so a lot of the pictures that I use have been from stock. I've actually talked with Adobe Stock about having more Black models or just Black photographers featured on there. And I also worked with a startup called Tonal. My friend started it, and actually Adobe bought some of their stock, so they have a partnership now, which is amazing. But Tonal is all about minorities, Black, Asian, Latino, Venezuelan, any minority you can think of, they're on that website. And so that was a bridge with Adobe Stock and Tonal to be able to kind of bridge that gap. But some of my images, I take them myself as well. So there's a kind of mix in there. But I've always tried to find a way to create work that people that look like me could look at and see themselves in. Because I know for me, I wasn't always comfortable in my skin. Coming to America, I was like not ready for the racial tension that was here. Whereas in Nigeria, I won't say there's racial tension, but there is like light-skinned versus dark-skinned, and people felt that light-skinned people got more opportunities and more jobs. And coming to America, and you can just see that you can get killed for walking down the street buying Skittles or in your own bed asleep, scary. And maybe even like not want to quote unquote be Black at the time. So doing the type of work that I do now is almost therapeutic for me because I get to remind myself that Black is beautiful that God made me in his image, and that I am the skin color that I am, and it's not a mistake. You know, it's a gift, and I need to own it. And so I want to kind of spread that narrative to people that look like me as well. And even with teaching, I think there's like 1% of the teachers are Black men, you know, and it's sad, but that's just the reality. But I know for me, I definitely left some impact in some of the Black kids in my class, because they were able to see someone Black, someone that was a male in the classroom, and there was just that connection. You know, I'm going through the same struggles that you're going through, you know, and I know one thing I tried to do in my classroom is that I taught the kids about how important it is to know how to edit different skin tones, right? Because you have Black photographers who can edit every skin tone that is thrown to them, but then you have white photographers that only know how to edit white skin. You know, if you look at presets, and I've talked to Lightroom about this too, if you look at presets, a lot of the presets, the samples are white people. And you have Black people buying those presets and using it on Black people, and now Black people don't look like they normally would look. And so a friend of mine, and even me and some other people were fighting to like show people how to edit Black skin, because it is important. And again, it goes back to that representation as well.
Absolutely. And so as educators, especially over the last 11 months, the rapid acceleration towards digital teaching means that we've had to create so much content without a lot of preparation experience to create digital content. That complements also the move to digital transformation, where everyone increasingly needs to be creating content, because these are the spaces where ideas are made and remade, and we want all of our students to participate and have a voice in those spaces. And so there's an example of in higher education, we have to I think rightly and wisely think about who has physical access to the teaching materials that we create. But then we also need to think about ideological access in terms of what's represented in the teaching materials that we're creating for our classes. And I mean, just representation of people who look different and don't just look one way is a fundamental aspect of that kind of accessibility. And so we thank you so much for your perspective and your art along these lines. I don't know if you had a closing thought before I kind of wind this out about everyone being a digital creator, everyone, including a faculty member who never imagined probably a year ago they'd have to be creating digital content, thinking intentionally and conscientiously about how you do that as part of the world for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable that we have to do this now. But I think that if you think about it, you're almost like storing content for the future. You know, when things get back to normal, you have videos that you can reference. Because I know when I was teaching, I had kids who learned better through reading. I had some kids who learned better through watching video. I had some kids who learned better with me actually being there and doing one-on-one. And so what I would do is I would write down the instructions, I would make a video about it, and then I would make another detailed video of like what I'm actually doing. And so it was just like those different ways to tap into the ways that students learn. And so I just encourage you to, do the best that you can. Your kids are there. I'm sure they can give you a lot of the best editing tools and things like that. I've had some teachers give extra credit for those who wanted to help the teachers, like teach them how to do stuff. And so, there's an opportunity there. You're able to connect with them and things like that. And, I'm hoping that, soon Adobe will be able to allow people, I think they already do now, but allowing people to like collaborate more within PSD files. So now a teacher can make a PSD file and collaborate with each of the students. And, they say, Mr. Coker, something's wrong with my file. You can just go open the PSD, look at it, and fix it for them or tell them what's wrong. So yeah, just keep trucking.
Thank you. Co-production of knowledge.
Yeah.
If a student partners with a teacher to help put together a module in a biology class, like me in that bridge that I built in high school, they're never going to forget that lesson.
Exactly.
Forever. And so I thank you so much for the inspiration and the representation and sparking an amazing conversation. Adobe is so proud and pleased to be asked to sponsor this session and this overall conference. And so we're very grateful for that. I'm going to wind out here by showing just a couple minutes of examples. Am I out of time, Richard, or do I have a couple minutes?
Please do. You've got a couple minutes. I did want to make a point, though. We have 2 sessions later this afternoon I want to make sure everybody's aware of. One is we have some faculty at Blinn College who are going to be talking about how to deal with systemic racial injustice on your campus and how to create a culture of inclusion and diversity among your faculty and administration, and to actually do that on campus. So it's not just something we're talking about. We didn't just form a committee to say we did it. How do you actually create change? And I hope some of what Temi has shared with you today can help inform the discussion you'll have later this afternoon. And then Todd, I think you're going to be telling them about a session about how to use Adobe tools on campus. We'll be having a session this afternoon about that. So thank you, Adobe. Thank you, Temi. Appreciate y'all support. But yeah, Todd, go ahead and close us out.
I will. Temi, you were talking about a student you had who is a senior who's about to graduate, and I'd like to share the story of a student in my class. She was in my first year English class in fall of 2016. Her name is Valentina Arizmendi, and she is an immigrant from Venezuela. And she started building this portfolio in my first year writing class, where people take stories of community and social justice, and they tell the same story from 6 different modalities, using photography, using InDesign to tell a magazine version of the story, using Premiere Rush to tell a documentary version, using Audition to make a podcast, using Spark to make a website, and actually also making an XD version of that. And so these kinds of modalities we're finding all across the curriculum, in the sciences, in every course, where students are sharing the work they're doing, their intellectual academic work, so that by the time Valentina graduates, and by the way, she's a senior with a job waiting for her in June already, she has accumulated all of these projects. And she started out as a business major. She's not a graphic, designer. And half of these things have been done spontaneously on her own for community-based stories and stories of social activism that her and her friends are interested in. So that by the time she graduates, she is digitally agile. She's had all of these different experiences solving problems and talking to different audiences in different modalities. In fact, she won an award, if I can find it, I think I have it queued up, she won a national award for this infographic projecting about the first time a woman will walk on the moon. And is incredibly impressive as all these high production value work is. To me, the most powerful work that I know of is actually comes from the simplest kinds of things. And so this is a website from Virginia Commonwealth University, a professor in there named Greg Burton, in response to the George Floyd murder, wanted his students to tell stories, first and autobiographical stories, of their experiences with race and racism in America. But has no idea how to open Photoshop, and neither did his experience, and didn't want to make the class all about that, right? Wanted to make the class about the stories and about the ideas and not the software. But there is now this collection in Creative Cloud that has something along the learning curve for everyone. So this is Adobe Spark. And when I use Adobe Spark in my class, I don't spend 1 minute teaching people how to use it. I just say, we have this project. You have an option. You can use a word processor, or you can go to spark.adobe.com, create your free account, and go from there. And do you know how many students have chosen to use a word processor? In my history, when given the option of using Spark, exactly 0. And so if there's one thing for the folks out there to think, well, this is all really slick and really impressive, but I don't know how I'm going to do this in my class. I'm overworked, I'm underpaid, I'm undersupported. I don't have any experience with digital teaching. It's these 3 sentences right now that can help make your class creative. You don't have to buy a thing. Your students don't have to buy a thing. In this assignment, you, the student, have the option to do this work as an Adobe Spark page instead of a word processing document. Go to spark.adobe.com, get your free account, and then share your URL as the Spark page in RLMS when you want feedback. That's it. And you don't change anything else about the class. This is just a place to start leveraging that kind of creative power to inspire your own pedagogy and to inspire your students. And from there, as we all know, there is the Adobe Creative Cloud that can inspire and create so many more combinations and possibilities that it's endless. And it's thrilling to me in my role to see what the incredible things that educators and students especially are coming up with everywhere across the curriculum. We thank everyone for being with us today. We're so honored as Adobe to work with Temi and to Richard and TCCTA. This conference, it means a lot to me. I've presented a bunch of times, and I can't wait to come back next year in whatever form that might be. Thank you so much for having me today. Thank you, Temi. Thank you, Richard. Our time is up.